So let's talk about the teams across the pond. So Gerry, RedBird's deal for AC Milan broke the record for the largest soccer club ever, only to be shattered by Chelsea, shortly thereafter. And now all eyes are on
So he got a huge discount.
Manchester United. Yeah, no, exactly. Talk to the guys at Man U. So Gerry, sounds like you're generally pretty bullish on European soccer. Talk to us about your journey, through buying Toulouse in 2020, I guess into Fenway Group with Liverpool in 2021, now AC Milan in 2022. Love your thoughts on, kind of your general thoughts on, how bullish you might be on European soccer, but also talk to us a little bit about, given that you've done these 3 club investments, do you have like a grand vision for this multi-club, sort of platform play, or are you looking at each of these as individual assets on their own?
Okay, so my euphoria around European football is relatively recent. I, for years, was not interested in European football. My business model, investing-wise in sports, was always around the business of sports, and it was always partnering with the rights holder and creating terminal value businesses around those rights. So it started with the Yankees, as you know, and then the Cowboys and the Yankees with Legends, and the NFL with On Location. It's, and the players themselves with one team, and it was the same model. And then 5 or 6 years ago, we said to ourselves, why don't we look at vertically integrating and becoming the rights holder ourselves? So it was 20 years after Steve, and we're always late to catch up. And there's ownership restrictions in the U.S. It's harder for institutionally formed capital to do that in the U.S. And there's none of those restrictions in Europe. But what the counter, though, in Europe is that you've got the transfer market and relegation. And then when you see an ecosystem that attracts sovereign states and oligarchs, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? And I got to give credit to Billy Beane. I mean, Billy was the one who educated me. Billy's been around European football for 20 years, and he said, you're not looking at it right. He said, you can do European football if you approach it with the Moneyball mentality. And that's great because that basically says that you don't have to sacrifice performance on the field for cash flow or vice versa. And so that got it. We spent 5 years basically apprenticing and learning, and we thought we knew a lot about sports, but over there we felt we had to really do a deep dive. We met with close to 200 teams across basically every country, made our first investment in Toulouse, and it was really data analytics driven. That was a great experiment. The price talk on the team was 60 million euros. It got relegated. We bought it for 15. Within, the first year, we sold our first player for 15. And we built it, and now it's in the middle of League One, and we got it promoted again. So that was a great experiment. We learned a lot. Great team. Then Fenway, something similar. Sort of migrating up to the larger teams, and then finally, to your point on the control buy at AC Milan. Look, I think AC Milan is one of the biggest brands in European football. It's Berlusconi was really the first oligarch, and he was the George Steinbrenner of his time. And one of the things that surprised me was that AC Milan has the second most Champions League trophies behind Real Madrid. I hadn't really kept up with that. But it's an undermanaged asset, and everything in Italy and around Serie A, Serie A has a right to have a seat at the world table, and AC Milan, I think, and some of the others have a right at that table, and it's our job to go do that. And so we're gonna look at this thing. The benefit for guys like Steve and me and others who have cut our teeth over here and can bring really best practices and a mentality to Europe, I think, can be very helpful. And you have to do that because what you're navigating over there is. It's a little bit of the Wild West, only in that there is no regulations on ownership. So anybody can go buy these things. And so you're seeing a pulling away of England from the continent and the corporatization of ownership in England versus whereas on the continent, the only 2 institutional owners on the continent, I think, are RedBird and Qatar in Paris Saint-Germain. Right. So there's definitely a navigation that needs to go on, but we like to invest around arbitrages.